Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been paying any attention to tech news lately, or listening to literally any AI expert, there is one specific phrase that just keeps coming up over and over and over again. You hear it in almost every interview, you read it in every article. That buzzword is AGI, artificial general intelligence. Some people call it super intelligent AI, others just stick to AGI, but whatever you want to call it, building it is the ultimate goal in tech right now. And experts are predicting that when AGI actually arrives, it's going to change pretty much everything about the way we live and work. So today, we are going to unpack exactly what that means.
Part 1, the Holy Grail of AI.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Experts view AGI as the absolute ultimate destination for AI research. We're not talking about a nice little software update for your phone here. So what exactly is AGI? Well, if you ask a dozen different experts for their definition and timeline, you're honestly going to get a dozen completely different answers. The specifics can be a little fuzzy, but there is a core concept that ties all of these expert opinions together. Artificial general intelligence basically refers to machines that don't just mimic human thinking, they match it, and then they rapidly surpass it. Some people define it simply as a computer that can do literally any intellectual task a human being can do. But the absolutely crucial mechanism here is something called transfer learning. This means the machine can learn something in one very specific situation and then seamlessly apply that knowledge to a completely different set of circumstances. It's not just spitting out a programmed response, right? It is genuine, highly adaptable intellect.
Part 2, current AI versus AGI. To really wrap our heads around what AGI is, we've got to compare it to the AI we're already using every day. Look, large language models, or LLMs, can feel incredibly human. Sometimes they frankly seem brilliant, but the reality is they aren't truly intelligent yet. They are highly skilled, for sure, but they're narrow. They are essentially incredible pattern matchers that rely entirely on their training data. So they're great for specific tasks like writing a block of code or generating an image. AGI is fundamentally different. These are systems that genuinely understand, learn, and adapt exactly like humans do, or honestly, even better.
Part 3, new tests for true intelligence. So for decades, the absolute gold standard for testing AI was the Turing test. Can a machine fool a human into thinking it's also a human? Well, a lot of today's LLMs can arguably pass that test just by perfectly mimicking conversation. Because of that, experts realize they need entirely new goalposts. Microsoft AI's Mustafa Suleiman has this fascinating benchmark. He says AGI is when you can hand an AI $100,000 and it turns it into $1 million entirely on its own. Just think about what that actually requires. We're talking autonomous execution, high-level strategic planning, deeply understanding markets, and pivoting to real-time financial changes without any human prompting at all. And then we have a completely different, but honestly equally challenging goalpost. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak says AGI is when a robot can walk into a totally unfamiliar stranger's kitchen and make a cup of coffee. The contrast here is super interesting, right? We go from intense, high-stakes global finance to a totally relatable, everyday domestic chore. But making coffee in a kitchen you've never been in requires incredible spatial intelligence. You have to open unknown cupboards, figure out the quirks of some specific coffee maker you've never seen, and deduce exactly where the mugs are hidden. Humans adapt to this kind of stuff instantly, but it absolutely baffles current narrow AI. Part 4, AGI in action. To really visualize this massive leap in capability, let's walk through a real-world analogy. Imagine you have an apple, and you want to make a meal out of it. Back in the early internet era, step 1, you'd ask Google, it'd give you a bunch of recipe links, and you'd have to do all the reading and the actual work. Fast forward to the current AI era, ChatGPT will brilliantly write out a custom recipe for you. It might even write it in the style of Shakespeare or Taylor Swift if you ask it to. But at the end of the day, you are still doing the cooking. Now, what happens in the AGI era? The machine already knows your exact tastes. It autonomously orders the exact ingredients to your house, hires a local cook, and makes sure dinner is hot and ready the second you walk through the door. It is the massive leap from just answering a prompt to autonomously executing a complex, multi-step life event. But let's take that concept and scale it way, way up. Let's step out of the kitchen. What if you ask a massive, globally complex question? What if you sit down and ask, how do I turn Uzbekistan into a top 10 global economy? Okay, current AI would basically scrape the web and spit out a generic Wikipedia-style summary of economic principles. But AGI? Experts describe this completely differently.
AGI wouldn't just tell you the answers. It would actively figure them out. It instantly reads everything ever written about economic development. It builds its own original models and runs countless complex simulations. It factors in demographics, shifting climate data, nuanced local politics. And then, and here's the crazy part, it actually crafts a strategy and literally starts emailing ministers in Uzbekistan in their native Uzbek language with a highly actionable reform plan. It acts exactly like a brilliant human strategist who just never sleeps, never wastes time scrolling Instagram, and relentlessly gets the job done. Part 5, Utopia or the Terminator. So, when you are talking about creating something with that kind of unfathomable power, the potential outcomes are, well, they're extreme. On one side of the coin, we have the best case scenario. AGI acts as the ultimate tool for human flourishing. It actively helps us solve the complexities of climate change, it cures cancer by analyzing medical data in ways humans simply can't, it massively boosts global productivity, and it effectively triggers a brand new golden age of innovation. But we also have to look at the other extreme, the worst-case scenario. In this theoretical outcome, AGI looks at the world, decides that human beings are essentially just inefficient carbon-based error machines, and logically concludes that the absolute easiest way to save the planet is to simply eliminate us. It's a very stark contrast, and the truth is, experts take both of these extremes very seriously.
Part 6. Are we there yet? Now, if that last scenario raised your heart rate a little bit, let's take a collective deep breath and look at where we actually are today. Expert predictions for when AGI will arrive vary wildly. The absolute shortest estimate claims we could see it in just 2 years. The longest timeline stretches out to about 10 years. But looking right here, right now, the reality is we are not on the brink of Skynet. We aren't just one quick algorithm update away from the Terminator. Right now, current technology is still heavily struggling with some very fundamental concepts.
Let's talk about the major technological bottlenecks holding this all back. First, just like we mentioned with Wozniak's coffee test, computers still profoundly struggle with spatial recognition. Navigating the unpredictable physical world in 3 dimensions is incredibly hard for a machine. Second, they have severely limited sensory perception compared to us humans. And third, and this is a massive one, creating and running an AGI is currently limited by the absolutely enormous amounts of physical energy needed to power it. The sheer scale of infrastructure required to make this happen is staggering. But here's the thing. Despite all those massive bottlenecks, experts have a very clear warning for us. Dismissing AGI as mere science fiction is a huge mistake, because virtually every major AI expert out there agrees on one thing. AGI is coming fast. Sure, the exact timeline might be a little fuzzy, ranging anywhere from 2 to 10 years, but the trajectory is set. It is no longer a question of if, but when.
Which brings us to the final takeaway in this explainer. What is absolutely certain is that AGI is a technology that will completely redefine intelligence as we know it. It is going to rewrite the rules of global power, and ultimately, it's going to challenge our very understanding of what it means to be human. So as we watch this technology rapidly approach, I'm going to leave you with one final, absolutely critical question to think about. Is society ready?